Hello, welcome to the AJ Review Show, Monthly Mentions Episode 3. Back with April this time, February, March, April. It is 4 films that I hope you would have heard of, 1 film I wish I'd never seen, 1 film I have seen before. It's just so worth a mention. There are very, very, very different films. I've tried to drop you in nicely, then we hit rock bottom. And then we come back out the other side quite nicely in this episode. So I hope you really enjoy it. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Things do look a little bit different. I've had to have a move around this week. But I'm kind of loving it. You know, we mix it up. The background's usually black, but now we're at white. So we're on the way up. We're coming up in the world. So I hope you really...
Now, the creators of Chicken Run are back with the pair that started it all, Wallace and Gromit.
And that was Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So I'm sure some of you would have heard of the Wallace and Gromit franchise before. They are so well known for their animation. They are stop animation made by Aardman. They also did like Chicken Run, Shaun the Sheep, things like that. Very well known. And this is probably I think it is basically everyone's favourite Wallace and Gromit film if you have seen the Wallace and Gromit franchise. The rough idea of the film is, if you've seen... So this is the 3rd iteration of the film. So the first one is A Grand Day Out, The Wrong Trousers, and then the latest one was A Vengeance Most Foul. And that was the Wallace and Gromit film that I kept talking about when I was talking about Flow, because it beat Flow at the Oscars for Best Animated Feature. So this is the 3rd iteration. It's my favourite. It's my family's favourite as well, I think. So Wallace is an inventor and Gromit is his dog. They make up a team called Anti-Pesto who use their inventions and Wallace's brain to create machines and contraptions to keep everyone and their vegetable garden safe. So the film is centred around this big vegetable competition they have in their town every year. And Anti-Pesto are like the top security guys in the area for making sure that everyone stays safe and all of their beloved veg stays safe as well. Suddenly there is an outbreak of rabbits in the local area and Wallace and Gromit come up with a way to catch all the rabbits. Wallace comes up with this ingenious idea to stop the rabbits from eating them and decides to brainwash them. However, things quickly turn sour when the brainwashing actually starts. It is one of my most beloved children films. It is sort of resides in the same headspace for me as Toy Story 2. I absolutely love the films. One of the main things that I think is so incredible about Aardman films and stop animation films in general, whenever you watch them, is how long it takes them to make. So from the conception of the idea to the final product took them 5 years, and most of that would have been spent on stop animation, on how long it takes them to make everything look as fluid as it does. Stuff like flipping a coin up in the air and balloons popping and stuff like that. It just takes them such a long time, so there is so much love that goes into these films, and you can really tell. So the voice cast for this, directors Steve Box and Nick Park, who have been a part of Aardman from the beginning. They have been the producers and the creators and the directors of basically every Aardman production. So Aardman, actually interesting, was created in 1976 in Bristol, which is just, I mean, it's been around for such a long time, and I think they've spent their time very well, so well done, Aardman. I do want to mention something else as well, just because I'm talking about Aardman in general. The first experience I had of them was this. So Aardman actually started out, not many people know this, as like a kind of like a horror, quite a creepy thing, where they were making like short stop animation horrors, or not horrors, but also just like very, very uncomfortable films. And I remember seeing one of them when I was very young. You know when you have one of those like jaded memories when you're young of something that you're pretty sure was creepy, but you can't really remember it and you can't find it either. So it could be really creepy or it could actually just be quite normal. But I remember seeing this really weird animation from theirs of this like couple getting a divorce and the child was really unhappy. Anyway, they did start off as a pretty creepy grounds. You can find some of their original stuff on YouTube. It is very odd and disturbing to watch. But anyway, Aardman stop animation. You've got Peter Sallis as the face of Wallace. Always has been the voice of Wallace. Ralph Fiennes is Victor Quatermain, the bad guy of the piece. Then you have Helen LaBonham Carter is Lady Campanula Tottingham. She is just an iconic character now. She is so set in her ways in the film and so posh. She's such a well thought out character. Other mentions, you have Peter Kay is PC Macintosh in the film. Peter Kay is just one of the funniest UK comedians out there, in my opinion, and he delivers some of my absolute most famous and favourite lines in Wallace and Gromit. It's a fantastic voice cast. It's very creative, and obviously, if you haven't seen anything to do with Wallace and Gromit before, Gromit doesn't speak. But the amazing about Gromit is you can always tell exactly what he's thinking, what he wants to do, where his head's at. He's just via his basic eyebrow expressions and what his eyes are saying, you can tell exactly what he's thinking. So it's so well thought out. As for the actual film, it's a family classic. You can't go wrong with Wallace and Gromit. You can't really go wrong with any of them. There's nothing horrible about them. There's no bad humour or language or anything like that. It's just good, hearty fun. And it's one of those films where you have to really look into the background of everything to get what they're trying to put across and pick up on all the jokes, and it makes it such an enjoyable viewing experience. It's quite an original concept for a film, I would say. So a were-rabbit, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because the film's been out for a very, very long time. It came out in 2005, so 20 years old. It's the same idea as a werewolf, except it's a were-rabbit, so it's even like a PG version of the werewolf. So it's such a creatively thought out film. It's an hour and 25 minutes. If you don't have an hour and 25 minutes to just give yourself a bit of time to relax, knock off and enjoy a film, if you do have the time, though, I do really highly recommend you watch it. It's a good, wholesome story. It's easy to follow, and you get to see all their characters at the best, but you also get to see them face some challenges along the way. It's nothing too deep. It is a children's film at the end of the day, but you do get to see a couple of different sides of Wallace and Gromit that you haven't seen before in previous films, and honestly, it's a great introduction to their characters as well. It is endlessly entertaining. I've probably seen this film maybe 4, maybe 5, probably more times actually, because I watched it a lot when I was very young, and every time you watch it, it's something else you can pick up on, like the fridge. One of the fridges that you see in the film doesn't say Smeg, it says Smug. Just really stupid little things like that, but that really give this film its sort of cult following, the love that it has. It gives it its own originality, and I love the films for it. They're so creative. Like, the film is relatively simple, I don't want to spoil it, but there's not too many twists and turns. It's very easy just to sit back, enjoy. I'm going to give Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit 4 stars. It's fun, it's lighthearted. I honestly can't pick fault with it. It's just that it has a special place in my heart, and I think anyone watching this would probably really enjoy it as well. And that's Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, come on, Gromit. A bit more alluring.
Wallace and Gromit, the curse of the were-rabbit.
And on to our next film. And that was Eraserhead. So, this is David Lynch's first film. If you've ever seen a David Lynch film before, you know what you're in for here. It's odd to say the least. So David Lynch is very well known for like Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, and he also did the original Dune, which is quite interesting. Funny enough, in the original Dune starring Patrick Stewart, him and David Lynch didn't get along at all because David Lynch thought Patrick Stewart looked completely different from what he actually did. But that's just an interesting fact, really. They didn't get along particularly well during filming. But it's uncut David Lynch. At this point, David Lynch has come onto the scene. No one really knows who he is or what he's doing, and he just produces the strangest hour and 29 minutes of film I've ever seen. So it came out in 1967. So it's an old film, nearly 50 years old, and it's obviously it's in black and white, but it is uncut David Lynch. He's a very distinctive director. You can always tell when he's put his spin on things. And also, interestingly, the film was inspired. He moved around a lot when he was a child, when he was young. And the film was partly inspired by a very violent time he had while living in an area of Philadelphia. Go Birds, but sorry about that. It's rough, but go Birds. Kind of the less said, the better about this film. I have to admit, I didn't enjoy watching it. I have a rule when it comes to films that if I have to look something up afterwards to understand the premise of the film or the plot or anything like that, then I think the film has failed in some fundamental way. I don't really understand. I do now because I've looked it up, which is my point. You don't. If you can watch a film and understand it, my perfect example of this is kind of like Interstellar or Inception. The first time you watch Interstellar or Inception, you understand enough about the plot to enjoy it. Then you rewatch it or look something up, and you can understand the film a lot better. In this film, though, you can't really understand head or tail of what's going on. It's just sort of, it's so baffling. There is a story, but only if you understand it, which you won't watch in this. I've said this to a couple of people since watching it. If you do not love film, and I'm not talking about movies, I'm not talking about blockbusters or action films. I'm not talking about your lovely Disney tropes or your Wallace and Gromit. If you love film and you can watch all your experimental films and your metaphysical films, everything like that, and you can really decode something that's incredibly metaphoric, you will enjoy this film. I love film. I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I thought I loved film to this level. It's got a strange following that I think people really like it because of how strange it is, and I can almost respect that, but it is so convoluted. It is wrapped in metaphor after metaphor and so much symbolism. There was one theme and symbol that I picked up in the film, and that was honestly it. I watched a video afterwards. I watched 2 videos actually to understand it, and even after the videos I was just sort of like, oh yeah, that wasn't worth the payoff. It's too caught up in its own mess. It's just so my cousin recommended it to me years and years ago because we were talking about Requiem for a Dream, and that is sort of the same headspace I would put it in. If you compare it to like Requiem for a Dream or the film Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal, you will sort of, it's not as confusing as those, but it is odd in that sort of way. And he said, oh, Eraserhead's very strange, but I sort of put it to the back of my mind for a long time and then came round back to it. It's a very strange film, and I don't really recommend it to that many people, but it's got Jack Nance in it, who plays Henry, who's also been in Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, so obviously the two liked working with another, and Charlotte Stewart is Mary, who's also in Twin Peaks and Tremors, so they are basically the 2 main characters. There is a few other side characters, but kind of the less I say about this, the better, because I don't really think there's many people that are going to enjoy watching it. It was utterly bewildering to watch and sit through and think about afterwards. It's incredibly uneasy to sit through. The lack of plot and overuse of metaphors make it even more difficult to follow or enjoy, to be honest with you. I don't really remember. I didn't sit there and think, wow, I'm really enjoying this, It's not, it's almost a bit too intellectual, but it's like he was trying to be too intellectual for his own good. And then even when you know the story afterwards, the payoff for it is very minimal. It's not like, oh my God, no, it's just kind of like, it's very, very odd. I will give you a little bit of a rundown of the synopsis of the plot. So Jack and Charlotte's character, Henry and Mary, they meet and they have coitus out of wedlock, and they have a very odd looking baby. The baby looks like E.T., also kind of looks like a maggot. This is what I mean. It's just like, what are we watching? It's a bit like what I would imagine LSD is like, but in form. It's a very strange bit where they go inside a radiator as well. There's so much metaphysical stuff going on there. It's so difficult to comprehend what you're watching is actually happening, or if it's going off in another parallel world or inside a radiator. It's just weird. I'd say it's perfect if you love cryptic films. I only got one bit of the symbolism. David Lynch is a strange person. I often get him confused with David Fincher, actually. I much prefer David Fincher. He did like Seven and things like that. So I would watch David Fincher, not David Lynch. It's I've heard Twin Peaks is very good, but I'll be honest with you, this hasn't put me any closer to watching that. Again, Mulholland Drive, but this was a tough watch even for me. So if you want to challenge yourself, give it a watch. But I always assure you're going to be just as confused as I was. It's borderline unwatchable in my opinion. Not clear enough in story, and it's uncomfortable viewing. Stylistically, I didn't hate it. I liked its sort of impressionism, but it was too confusing, and it sort of failed to do what film should do. For that reason, I'm only going to give it 2 stars, and that's Eraserhead. on to our next film. And that film is Perfect Days. So, Perfect Days came out in 2023 and it's 2 hours and 4 minutes long. If I had to give you a brief idea of what to expect in this film, on the site Letterboxd that I use for all my long reviews, if you want to check it out, AJ Reviews 101, on there is a list called Films I Watch for the Vibes. This is a film you watch for the vibe. There is not a whole lot of plot, of character development. It takes you on a journey, but it's not a journey to the Lost City or to the Gold or the Golden Idol or anything like that. It is a film that you watch to soak up, sit in. It's kind of like getting in a bath. Yeah, Perfect Days is kind of like getting in a bath. It's greatly enjoyable. I loved it. It was fantastic, the best. But it's not riveted in story, but it is bloody brilliant. So Hirayama is a toilet cleaner. He lives in Tokyo and his life is very regimented and scheduled. He does almost the exact same things every day. He just lives the same sort of life, and it's just him. It's him. He wakes up, he waters his plants, he goes to work, he gets some food, he goes to the wash house, he comes back. And I'll be honest with you, that is pretty much the whole film I've just described. He has a few choice encounters and decisions to make him sort of reflect and think about his life throughout the film. It is moving because it shows you the life, basically, of this wonderful place, it's Tokyo, but through the eyes of essentially like its lowest down worker. Like a toilet cleaner is by no means a glorified role. It's a role that we all need, and I thank the people that do it, but it is a very lowly down role, and you still see from his perspective the beauty of the world, and that is really where the film is rooted in. So it was nominated at the Oscars for Best International Film, Feature Film, and it was also nominated at Cannes. So it's I wish it would have got a little bit more of an accolade to it, but it's a wonderful film. So Wim Wenders directed it. He also directed Pope Francis, A Man of His Word, and Koji Yakusho is the main man in it, and he's also did Under the Sky, Rikyu, and Cure. So I have to admit, I've never seen him anything else, although I am quite tempted to watch some of his other work because he puts on such a meaningful, moving performance. There's not loads and loads of dialogue. A lot of what he does is just acted out through movements and things like that. But what he achieves with just this very simple plot is incredibly moving. I mean, if you could seriously watch this film without being moved, I'd be very surprised. I'm also going to drop a little fun fact for you about the Oscars, just because I'd wondered this myself. So the Oscars are known as the Academy Awards, so why are they called the Oscars? And the popular theory is that Margaret Herrick, who later became the Academy's director, said many, many years ago, reportedly said, that the statue resembled her uncle, who was named Oscar. And that is honestly the only theory I could come up with, that I read online, so that's interesting. Anyway, back to the film. It's beautifully mundane. There are films that I try to achieve the same that this film did, and they fall short. But the way it's shot, the music choices, the way it's sort of subtly acted, brings together this beautiful, almost otherworldly performance, and makes you think more deeply about the things that you do and how your life is and what you take for granted. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. I would say the things taken this film, take nothing for granted. Stop to smell the roses. Appreciate what it is. And I try to do this. It's a very film reviewer thing to say, but look at how things really are. I know that it doesn't really make any sense, but if you were driving in your car or going for a walk or on the bus or on the train, almost look at things through the perspective of, if you had a camera in front of me and you were looking for beauty, what would you look for and what would you film? And then admire it, look at it, look at the flowers, look how pretty things are. It's a bit philosophical really, but it's a film that should make you reflect and think, maybe things aren't as bloody grim as you think they are. You know, to quote Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And that is kind of the whole film encapsulated in a quote, to be honest with you. Obviously, Ferris Bueller's not referenced in the film, but, I mean, along with the film being beautifully shot and subtly acted and all the rest of it, it has a sort of surprisingly up-to-date but retro soundtrack because of, in the film, the main character has a real love of cassette tapes. So you get songs like House of the Rising Sun, Brown Eyed Girl, Pale Blue Eyes, things like that. It just adds into this sort of the quirkiness of the film as well. The small bits you see outside of the norm of his life. So there are a few things that interrupt his everyday life, and the little things that do happen that don't even take up the entirety of the film, but they add in extra little sides to the character that you wouldn't expect to see really with the nature of the film that gets shown. It shows that he's a very caring man, a man that looks like he's probably been hurt before, but it doesn't make it the center focus of the film. It shows you that life just carries on no matter what, really, and there's something harmonic about it. It's a very relaxing, calming film. I was incredibly chilled out, as the kids say, after watching it. Very happy too as well. It was so enjoyable to watch. It's a sort of film you could watch once and then probably just put on the background you could meditate to it, I'm pretty sure. It's just so relaxing and nicely made. A relatively small budget for this day and age of 14 million. It grossed 24 million, so it did turn a budget, but I can only hope that they will make more things like this, because I think films like this have a very important part. They serve to show new filmmakers, established producers and directors that you don't need a huge budget or a crazy story. If a film is well made, it's well made. And that can just trump everything else. It's not afraid to show off his character in every sense of the word. There is a few scenes where he is naked, you don't see any dong, but you get to see every bit of the world that's built around him, so you can experience it properly through his eyes, and you can see the routine of everything, but you can see the wonderfulness of it as well. It's simple, it's beautiful, effective. I am giving Perfect Days 4 stars. It was an absolute treat to watch, and that's Perfect Days.
今度は今度。今は今。
今は今。
And on to our final film.
Pandora. It's a town where nothing much ever happens. This is where I live with my...
And that is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. So, Gilbert Grape is a film that I've known about for a very long time, but there are films that you leave alone. I don't really understand why, and then you come and watch them and think, God, why didn't I watch that about 3 years ago? This is a great example of it. It's probably best well known because of Leonardo DiCaprio in it, which I'm going to get onto. But the rough idea of Gilbert Grape is a grape. Sorry. Every time someone spoke to you about this film, they would say Gilbert Grape. It's Gilbert Grape, like grape, but everyone says Grape. I don't know why. So the film is about a young man lives in a small town, small Midwestern town, and is responsible for taking care of his entire family. He works at the local store, and primarily most of his time is spent taking care of his younger brother Arnie. There is some other layers. There is romance in the film. Later on in the film, he meets Juliette Lewis's character, who comes in. Her name's Becky, and starts to mix things up. And then, in all of the heat and the confusion and hubbub, for the first time in Gilbert's life, he has to ask himself just one question: what do I want? And that is where the film takes place. You get the setup to of his life, what he does, everything he has to do. Juliette Lewis comes in and just mixes everything up, swirls around, and asks him for the first time in his life to focus inwardly on himself. The whole of his life, his whole existence has been spent on his brother, his family, his mother, and taking care of everyone. And for the first time in his life, I mean, he's maybe like 18, 16, 17, 18 in the film, someone comes along and asks him, Gilbert, what do you want? And it's a beautifully sort of ironic, humorous film. So we've got the director, this is so weird, the director is Lasse Hillström, who's a Swedish director. I'm not exaggerating this, and I'm not going to list them either. He has directed 15 ABBA films. Genuinely, Lasse Hillström Look him up. He's got 2 dots above the O, so you know it's really Swedish. Honestly, 15. I'm not surprised. I mean, I respect them giving them to a fellow countryman, but and he's also directed 4 films about dogs. Again, not exaggerating. I will list these: A Dog's Purpose, Hatchie, A Dog's Tale, A Dog's Journey, and My Life as a Dog. So, if I had to guess what this guy really likes, it would be aberrant dogs. It's such a strange mix, but anyway, he smashed it out of the ballpark with this. It's one of my favourite films. I thought it was wonderful. So, cast, we have Johnny Depp, who plays Gilbert Grape. You'll know him from Pirates of the Caribbean, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Rango. Rango, again, I'm sure I'll talk about it eventually, but it's one of my favourite animated films. So interesting. The interesting about Django is when they were recording the dialogue for it, they actually set up what was happening in the animation in real world with all the other characters. So there is bits of Johnny Depp walking around like Rango and talking like him, and it's incredibly entertaining. And it's a fantastic film. But anyway, not talking about Rango, unfortunately. Leonardo DiCaprio is Arnie Grape. He at Wolf of Wall Street, The Revenant, Killers of the Flower Moon. So I'll address this now. It's the elephant in the room. He plays a boy with some sort of mental handicap. And when he went to the red carpet, people were shocked that he wasn't. His depiction, his acting of a young boy with some sort of, like I said, mental handicap is amazing. It is so captivating and aggravating and irritating and loving and deep. I mean, the age he is in this film, for him to put on such an amazing performance, I mean, it's no wonder that he's basically the most famous and probably best regarded actor of all time. He's not my personal favourite, but I can appreciate that he probably is the greatest actor that has ever lived. I mean, I don't want to put people like De Niro or Pacino down, but it's such a young age to portray such a tough character, but to do it so profoundly is incredible. Then, like as I already said, you've got Juliette Lewis, who plays Becky, Natural Born Killers, like I said a few weeks ago, Cape Fear, and Dusk Till Dawn. Funnily enough, Dusk Till Dawn references back to last week when we were talking about Sinners. John C. Reilly, Tucker, Step Brothers, Stan and Ollie, and Talladega Nights, which is funny because I'll be talking about Stan and Ollie next month. Crispin Glover, who plays Bobby, and I was really looking at him and I couldn't get it, and then I clocked he plays a younger version of Biff's dad in the original Back to the Future, which is just odd. He's also in Charlie's Angels and in the 2010 remake of Alice in Wonderland. And guess who else was in Alice in Wonderland? Helen Bonham Carter, who plays the Red Queen. So, weirdly, we have a link between What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Wallace and Gromit at the start. There you go. Congratulations. That's the Kevin Bacon theory, if ever you wanted it. So, the actual film itself is wonderful. It's fantastic from start to end. It's creatively shot and metaphorically brilliant. The main metaphor of the film is the house. I'm not going to spoil it, but the house and its state and its weariness, the house they all live in, I mean, it's so important to the film, but it's just so fantastically done. And it's metaphorically understandable. It's not like Eraserhead. You can actually understand what's going on. It's an outstanding performances from both DiCaprio and Depp. They're full of depth and real emotion that it feels like it's been captured from real life and experiences, and it shows all the difficulty and reality of both of their positions. The difficulty of what it must be like to be like Arnie, but also the difficulty of having to care for someone like Arnie, and his behaviour is a constant challenge for Gilbert. A heartwarming but also a nerve-wracking story. There are so many times where I was on the edge of my seat, worried about what was going to happen next. Are they going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? Like, what's going to happen next? And it really dragged me into their world. And it's such a heartwarming story. It's an odd story there because also, as much as you really like all the characters, Gilbert also takes the mick out of his mum. He lets the local children, basically his mother in the film is beyond obese. She is like couch bound, bedridden basically, and he lets the children come by from the local neighbourhood to give him like a quarter or whatever to see his mum and laugh at her, basically. She doesn't see, but John C. Reilly's character does see him do it and calls him out for it. But he has a very confusing relationship at times with himself, but also the people around him, and it just gives you this wonderful depth of character. And it's an unusual coming of age story. I love coming of age stories. Films like Boyhood spring to mind, mid-90s, where you are seeing these men on the precipice of becoming who they're probably going to be for the rest of their lives. And they capture this interesting, introspective time that they are finding who they are. They're becoming men, they're becoming women, and they're progressing into the next stage of their lives. And this film captures the inner turmoil and the choices that have to be made with that. It's a film that is kind of ahead of its time in what it's talking about in its subject matter. It's very, very aptly made. They show things like the introduction of supermarkets and fast food chains and how it affects sort of like the small supermarkets and the ma and pa run shops. They show the sort of the slow transformation of America and family values and things like that. There are so many themes in this film that just made it what it is and made it so enjoyable to watch. It's a funny and quirky story. They have all these other characters like John C. Reilly who have their own little memorable quirks and idioms and nuances, and it makes it kind of makes you, it's like the film's almost laughing at its own characters because they are so peculiar and odd, and they all have so many different ways of doing things that it does make you question why they've written some of the characters, but it also makes it seem so authentic where it's been filmed. Like I said, it's a small Midwestern town, and you would get all these sort of odd in and out characters, and I just really felt that the way it builds the world and the characters it actually do add to the story, and they're not just putting someone in for the sake of it. It's a very well thought out film. You get kind of a bit of everything. You get these wonderful highs, these sort of sad lows. You get the coming of age story, the love interest, the heartbreak, and the difficulties of life, the ups and the downs, and it just, I don't know, it's a very touching film, and I feel it's a film that you would be hard pressed not to enjoy. I don't give these out very often here, but I think What's Eating Gilbert Grape is a 5-star film. It was utterly fantastic to watch and moving in a way that I think a lot of films try to be but just miss the mark, and that's What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Look, it's a praying mantis.
You know how they mate? The male will sneak up on the female, and she'll bite off his head, and the rest of his body will keep on mating, and then when they're done, she'll eat him.
Well, there we have it. Another monthly mentions done. 4 very, very fun films. I mean, going to the cinema is always such a fantastic thing, but getting to sit at home and watch a film is also, there's something very special about it, especially when you get to do it with people you love. So, if we learned anything from this episode, take life for what it is, roll with the punches, don't watch Eraserhead, stop to smell the flowers and enjoy things. I don't know, love unconditionally and don't be scared to get hurt. I don't know, I'm probably getting off the point there. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I've loved making it. I hope you have enjoyed this background. I don't know if we're going to use it again. Thank you so much for watching, and that's the AJ Review Show. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed watching that episode. If you could just drop me a subscribe down below, leave a like and a comment, that'd be really helpful. You can now find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd, all at AJ Reviews 101, and click to watch this video up here that YouTube recommended. Enjoy. Susie Baka, Susie Baka.